UAPs, unidentified anomalous phenomena. Are they extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers in origin, or are they simply a result of top-secret military black projects, false flag alien invasion psyop, drones, or other human-made aircraft? Join UFO historian Don Ecker, MUFON State Director for New York Chris DePerno, retired veteran pilot Commander Cobra, and well-esteemed host and researcher Martin Willis as they discuss the latest news and topics regarding UAPs with a no-holds-barred approach on UAP Crossfire.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Crossfire. This is I think it's our fourth one. I can't count, but I think it's about four. And this is live. I love when it's live. We have Chris DePerno over here joining us. We have Commander Alien Eyes Cobra down there. Don Ecker down here. Welcome, you guys. Here we go. Who's down there? What was that? What was that, Don?
You're saying Chris is over here.
Is this? Oh, you know what? I don't think I mirrored I didn't mirror my screen. I apologize. I'm just trying to keep people on their feet. Yeah. Okay.
You got to keep the show live.
That's why we have the names. See the names in each block.
That's true.
That helps.
All right.
Hey, a quick hello to the greatest audience on the planet, by the way, from Commander Cobra.
All right.
It is.
That is really very interesting glasses. That's all I'm going to do all this whole show is stare at your glasses.
I had to go extra special. I was away for a while. I'm going to be away for a while. I'm studying Elton John. Elton John had the fashionable eyewear for each time he opened a new show. I'm back with you. I spent a couple extra.
That ain't going to be good enough till you sing Rocket Man.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Or right. Major Tom.
All right. So here we are at UAP Crossfire. And tonight we're going to be talking about the UAP Disclosure Act, which is in a bit of trouble. And it's kind of a mystery right now with all the things that are happening with it. We're going to be talking about that. And in a half hour or so from now, Stephen Bassett will be joining us we'll get his perspective on it. He'll be joining us for about a half hour here. And so when I'm saying it's a mystery, it really is. Like I spoke to someone down in Washington that's right there paying attention to every single thing going on. And he said, well, it seems like one of the three mics flipped. And it seems like they are just saying that it's poor writing in the Shermer amendment, and they're trying to make it better. So now they're trying to attach Burchett's amendment to the whole thing. So it's pretty interesting. I don't know if any of you had a chance to watch Burchett today for about a half hour. They went public and talked about what they're trying to do. But it's all about transparency. And I think that's really important. I think it's very bipartisan, too. But I'm sure you've heard that there was... they said, I had someone on the other night talking about the three mics were all against it, all looking to boot it out of, the National Security Authorization Act,
right,
to be voted on. And anyway, it's hanging by a thread. There's about 20 days left. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. They're going to be, of course, fighting over everything, not just this amendment. But it should be really interesting what happens in the next several days. What are, let's see, can I go like this? Is that working right for Commander?
Yeah.
Commander, what's your
that works.
I only got part of the interview, and I did hear a couple things when I was driving up from work. And one of the things I think is very fitting that kind of encapsulates it is the line that's used in the brief. When you're over the target, you catch the most fire. And it's interesting how this has been very, very quiet up to this point. Now, as we get into the last basically 20 days with all the other things that are going on, and they're up against some major league issues that they've been dancing. I mean, we all, I think, would agree that we've, starting from the federal government level, have kicked the can down the road on budgets, continuing resolutions, which are no way to be running the government. All those things have gone on. But this keeps surfacing up. And it's not, the folks that are serious about this are asking for some very common sense activities, very common sense procedure, very common sense clearance of information. Disclosure is not even really part of it. One of the remarks that was made, simply asking that when in commercial aviation, primarily it would be airline pilots, but in commercial aviation, basically radio communications with air traffic control that the FAA runs, when a report for UAP is made, it's just going to be made public. It's going to go out. Now, for the most part, those events are recorded, but they're not officially documented and then put on a record and then made available for the public. When you hear it, it's because someone is monitoring those frequencies, or pilots have come forward and say it, or that maybe a news agency had picked it up because they were monitoring common channels around an area where they're at. I think that I find this really intriguing that with all the things that are going on, this has a group of people that are really fighting for it, and they've come down to a very fundamental issue. One of the things we've always talked about, I'm seeing now more and more pressure coming up, is we all believe in freedom of speech. I mean, that's the whole essence of what we're doing here on KGRA. We're losing some stations that can't make viable runs anymore. They can't keep up with their programming. It's just becoming difficult to do. And the second part is the people that we elect, regardless how you feel about them, the people we elect are being overturned or thwarted by the will of apparently by people that put them in place, us include the audience.
Or being bought off.
We want disclosure, and you have bureaucrats that are shutting it down.
Well,
how about you, John?
Say it on to
go
that,
ahead, Chris.
Commander. Go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I was just jumping on, is that people who have been bought off are being bought off by the intelligence community. Because one of the things Tim Burchett has said, and he was very hostile about this, he was upset, is that the intelligence community, not the committee, but the communities, and he said communities, are shutting this disclosure down. They have talked about people being bought off, blackmailed, and being told that they're going to lose their jobs, or they'll be primaried, or they will be toppled if they do not keep their mouth shut. And this is going to politicians, it's going to government people. And one of the things that why I don't believe disclosure is going to be forthcoming is because the Pentagon just went through an audit, and they can't account for 50% of their money. They were like, we don't know where it is. And part of that is because of the black projects, the UFO projects that everybody is alluding to, that they're hoarding for themselves. So now you got 50% of the Pentagon's budget that's unaccounted for. You got the intelligence community saying, we got to shut this down. And it is about the money. It is about keeping this technology away from the American people. There's nothing about that.
Well,
Okay,
I'm not going to
is this my turn now?
Not accountability.
Yes, it's your turn.
Okay, here's the bottom line. It's the dirty little secret. Disclosure was dead when it was first birthed. This goes back practically 80 years ago, all the way back to the end of the Second World War. The government, the military, and the intelligence people at that time knew something was up there. It scared the hell out of them, even though we had just completed the most technologically advanced war in all of human history that we're aware of. We literally started the war still using horse cavalry, and we ended it by detonating 2 nuclear weapons. But there was something flying around that just seemingly left us in the dirt. They knew it then. They tried to hide it. They lied about it. They destroyed lives. Chances are they also murdered people. They destroyed military officers' careers, okay? They turned people that reported these things into a laughingstock. And they've been doing that ever since. Now, I maintain that they are aware of a core secret. But whatever that secret is so terrifying to the powers that be that they encompassed it within a special access program. Now, there are a lot of ways, and I don't have the time to go into how I happen to know that, and you guys do too. But a number of years ago, one of our flag officers, okay, an admiral, that at the time was leading the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, one of the premier intelligence agencies in America's alphabet soup, decided he wanted to try to find something out about that. Now, he has since denied that this happened, but he has no choice because he was aware that whatever this thing is encompassed by a special access program, which means under federal authority, if he even acknowledged that he knew of the existence of this thing, he would be liable to federal prosecution. So he has no backstep except to lie that it never happened. But we are pretty damn sure it did happen. So what's that mean? Well, at some point in the past, the military, the intelligence, the federal government authorities gave this out to private corporations to attempt to exploit this technology. They don't have to answer to anybody, okay? They're not susceptible to FOIAs or any other damn thing. And those were the exact same people that told that flag officer, Admiral Thomas Wilson, to go peddle his papers somewhere else, preferably back in D.C. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, this will never, ever be disclosed. And I've watched people, we're going to be having somebody on here in a very short time, Mr. Stephen Bassett, who's been attempting to lead the charge on disclosure for decades. And he's simply flailing at windmills. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And, you know, basically, if you get right down to it, we're sitting here making mud holes because that's all that's going to happen. And these people in Congress, the ones that aren't bought and paid for, haven't felt the fire yet. But you got to ask yourself, let's go back to 2000, this is very briefly, 2009, when Barack Obama became president of the United States. He went into office, didn't have $1 million to his name, okay? 8 years later, when he left, he's buying beachfront property in Martha's Vineyard. How did that happen? Well, the money flowed into the coffers. Why? Because obviously he wasn't the only one, did what these people wanted him to do. And that was basically, they sang the tune, he danced to it. And that's how it happens in Congress. Mitch McConnell, another great example. Guy's a multi-gazillionaire. How did that happen? Well, a lot of the money, believe it or not, flows from China. Boy, China, where have I heard that before? This is all about politics, all about money, all about who can be bought and paid for. and who has to be destroyed?
Well, I got to tell you, Don, I 100%, we may not always agree, but I 100% agree with everything you just said. You really nailed it. I really think so. So we're going to run this.
And Martin, while you're getting ready to cue it up, what's behind all that buy-off? The people that have power and have control are buying off to maintain and to accumulate more power and control. That's what you're running up against.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to run this clip. This is just today. This happened today, and it's about the Burchett Amendment. And he's going to talk. I think it's about 5 or 6 minutes. We're going to run this clip just for Tim talking. Go ahead and run it if you would, please.
Just kidding. Everybody ready? You got a white balance? You good? Everybody good? All right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm standing right here, dude. Well, thank y'all for being here. This is a very important issue, and this shows with the amount of coverage that we have today. I'm Tim Burchett, Congressman from Tennessee. I've studied this issue for quite some time, and honestly, it just kind of fell in my lap up here. I believe our country, at least since 1947, has had a long history of covering this issue up. And this year, we were finally able to hold a legitimate hearing in July with credible witnesses who testified under oath to what they'd seen and experienced. The hearing this year faced a lot of pushback from the intelligence community, members of Congress, and of course our friends at the Pentagon. The intelligence community shut down an amendment I tried to include in the FAA reauthorization bill, and basically it would just require the Federal Aviation Administration to report UAP sightings by commercial pilots to Congress. I was told by the whip that bill was killed by the intelligence community, and I corrected him and I said, "You mean the intelligence committee?" And he said, "No, the intelligence community." And as they say, when you're over the target, that's when you get the most fire. And it would just, like I said, it would just require the FAA administration to report UAP sightings by commercial pilots to Congress. Again, they spend a whole hell of a lot of time and effort and money to tell us something exists that does not exist. And so, fortunately, another amendment I introduced this year, it was to increase transparency. And honestly, this is what this whole issue is about transparency. On the issue, was included in this year's NDAA Act. It required the Department of Defense to declassify any documents and records relating to publicly known sightings of UAPs or UFOs that do not compromise the national security of the United States. It all comes down to one word, and that word is transparency. I've been briefed on things I can't talk about in public because it's considered classified. But why are we classifying so much about this, especially if the information doesn't jeopardize national security and we have departments telling us that they do not exist? We are here today to discuss that. I've got several other notes, but I'll skip over them because I know y'all probably want to hear from the folks behind me. We had some great witnesses, as I stated before, but these folks want to talk about more of the transparency and some of the pushback we're receiving from those aforementioned groups. And with that, I'll turn it over to my dear friend.
So that I just wanted people, I couldn't hear it very well. I'm hoping the audience was able to hear it well enough. But I just wanted to run that, this is just another example of how there is people that are not involved in what Don was talking about. They want this to be transparent. They want to get it out there. They don't have, anything in the game. So any skin in the game. So anyway, thank goodness for people like these people that talk today that are trying to push this ahead. And that includes Schumer. It doesn't matter what you think about these people. What was that? Do you have something to say?
I did. I just wanted to get your attention, and I couldn't figure out how else to raise my hand. I'm so institutionalized with all the other ways that I electronically do it. I had to go back, and then I realized my finger was out of focus, and I wanted to make sure. Oh no, that wasn't what I was doing. It was open hand. There's an interesting portion here, and I want to throw this out. I want you guys to think about it when Steve joins us. If this finally, if the transparency is achieved, will it cause such a breakdown on what the government has done to date? Is that part of what is holding this back? You have lied or obfuscated so long that now if you do this, with all the other things that are mounting up, I mean, you look at all the other things that have gone up, there's reasons why you don't talk. Just as it was just said by the good congressman, by the good representative, that he has seen things he can't talk about because he's been told it's national security. That blanket has been used, and it's been used incorrectly. But imagine what happens if this comes out or you break it out and people start to go, well, what else have you fibbed about? What else have you done? And for what reason? And it could be what we were talked about, everything that Don mentioned. Has some ill-got gain been occurred for reverse engineering and technology? Have we had something like that happen? Have we had that? But think about the flipping of the tables in the temple, so to speak, if that finally happens, what that means.
I agree. I think I've said this all along. There's going to be a lot of splaining to do if they've been holding all this stuff secret for a long time. A lot of explaining. And, I agree also that there is going to be a lot of things held under the umbrella of national security, whatever they can use it for. That's what I think. And so I'm not really thinking there's going to be a lot of transparency, whatever happens, not at least for a while. I don't know. We'll see. Anyone else have a comment on that? Chris?
Well, I personally think that one of the reasons is that Commander, did you want to go?
No.
Oh, okay. Anyways, I personally think
jocular with you.
You always smile with me, baby. You're the best and stuff. Anyways, as I was getting back to is that I agree with what Don was saying, that there is something so sinister because we really don't know what this UFO anomaly is. We don't know what really, if it's extraterrestrial, interdimensional, demonic. I mean, we speculate on all three different things and people have really good theories on all of them. But let's say there's a part of the Pentagon, which Lou Elizondo has said that he thinks this is all demonic. This is coming out of the Bible. That's a very scary thing. And it's hard to, let's say you want to put that theory out there. Can you imagine telling people, you know what, the rapture's coming soon and the end of the world's coming and the Antichrist is coming, but you all guys have a good day. People are going to have a hard time believing that. Now, you want to say about the extraterrestrials. Now, I know as a police officer, and Don will tell you, when you put out there and say, hey, there's extraterrestrials out there and they're walking among us, there are crazy people that are going to grab their shotgun. And this is not hypothetical. This has already happened. People are going to grab a shotgun and say, my neighbor is an alien, and try to shoot them. So we have to worry about the monetary functions that are going to go on with this disclosure. We have to worry about, let's say abduction is real. How do you explain to the American people that this extraterrestrial race are taking people at their will, not our will, but at their will, and doing all kinds of experiments on them? That's a very sinister thing.
And I'm going to throw out that I think that there may be an allegiance or an allowance that was set up with the world governments on those kinds of activities.
And you might be right, Commander, because you know what? Tucker Carlson asked that question in an interview with Tim Burchett. He asked that he believes that there's information floating out there, credible information, that the U.S. government has been in contact with these aliens. And they have met some kind of agreements. And shouldn't we know that? And if they have done that, how dangerous and how careless and how hideous that would be to allow an extraterrestrial race to tamper with us without our knowledge. That is the worst thing a government could do.
Well, you see, here's the thing. We always talk about the Republic of the United States. And hey, I hate to tell you guys, but this is starting to mirror Star Wars, the freaking movie. Okay? The Republic.
Well, this screen does look like the bar scene. I will give you that, Don.
Yeah. The Republic is gone. The Republic retired in 1947 when the National Security Act was signed into law. We today live in a somewhat, not totally, but somewhat benign police state. Hey, I've watched, and Chris will, I think, agree. We were both cops. I've watched and I'm not taking a side on either end of the spectrum, but those so-called January 6th, those January 6th revolutionaries, the way they're being painted.
Them sons of bitches.
They were simply having a demonstration, and somebody decided to put on the jackboots, and these people have been jailed for now years, all right? Jailed for, you take a look at the laws of this country. Nobody has obeyed the laws of this country anymore if it's inconvenient, It's getting to the point where that pressure cooker is going to pop. And by God, if it does. And this is simply one of the indications of the stuff that has gone sideways. All right, this UAP UFO thing. Look, if there's anything to this, and I think we all believe there's a lot to this, it ain't never going to see the light of day, Bubba. Never, 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 for whatever reason. And not the least of the tremendous criminality as practiced by the powers that be. All right, the military. Hey, look, ever since the 2017, when the whole Nimitz battle group came out, suddenly everybody is spilling their guts. The Navy, the Navy was all over this. What's the one military organization
Air Force.
that has yet
Air
to
Force.
say
Air
one
Force.
word? Exactly.
Not a
The very people that have been in charge of this mishmash since 1947. Hey, buddy, the fix is in a big way.
I just want to bring something to your attention, Chris, and that is Lou Elizondo said one of his superiors that was above his pay grade was someone that thought it was demonic. Lou Elizondo himself did not say that. He said
but
one of
he
his
reported
superiors.
that. Right.
He reported it concerning a group called the Collins Elite. All right. Now, these guys have been talked about before. They are, and Elizondo, in one of a couple of occasions when I spoke to Elizondo briefly, and then the guy dodged me. All right. I've tried to get in touch with Elizondo a number of times. He's lied to my face on 3 occasions to me. He lied to me that he would be immediately getting back in touch with me. He never did. I think he's afraid of my interviewing him because I don't throw softball questions, as you guys know. I want to get to whatever truth we can get to. And I think he felt he might be compromised if he may have been told, hey, look, people know who I am. He might have been told that he would be compromised if he entertained an interview by me. So there's that. But the bottom line is, hey, look, this show tonight is an exercise in futility. Do you think we're going to be getting anywhere with this? I mean, my God, if U.S. representatives, congressmen, and senators can't get anywhere with this, what the hell hope do we have?
All right, so that does it for the show.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why what this does. As futile as it is, you have to keep pounding on the wall. The wall will not fall unless you put some kind of energy against it. Be it the trumpets of the Old Testament that make the walls of Jericho fall. You have to keep doing that. And that's the only way this is going to get resolved, because we know that
300 pounds of C4, Commander.
The game is not being played on a level field, and it's not going to change. That is not going to change. And there's not just the other ways that the government is suppressing this and other things like it should give pause to everybody. The only thing that heartens me on this, because I have the same pessimistic view that you do, Don, is that now more people are talking about it intelligently than I've ever heard in decades.
True.
And like we talk about, that all of this ties in together. A lot of the things that are going wrong are really wrapped by the UAP UFO situation and the lack of disclosure and the way that it's been used against basically not just the people of the United States, but globally.
Well, I personally think that we're holding on by a thread but I see a glimmer of hope, Commander, and I see a glimmer of hope, Don, by what you're saying. I know that we're a small, faint voice in the dark. But look at the chat. I'm watching the chat right now. What great people are talking in there. What are they saying? They're talking about all this stuff that we're talking about. And as that grows, our voices, our ideas will grow with that. I really, truly believe that, because as Commander says, we got a great audience. This is one of the greatest audience there are, and they can spread the word. So it comes from us, it goes to them, and it goes from them to other people. I'm very impressed with the chat that goes on as we talk about this. Yes, we're a faint voice in the dark, and we have to loud more than anybody else. But I still think that we're getting somewhere with it.
All right.
So we don't have to end the show.
One of the things I didn't want to do is to get real political. This will get a little political tonight, possibly, but Dawn, I take a little bit of offense about the January 6th. I just do. And if that's the way you feel about it, fine. That's not the way I feel about it. It doesn't represent us all.
Oh, that's
I think
fine.
It was a terrible thing that they broke into the Capitol, and it was ridiculous. And
they
I don't want to
break into the Capitol. They went left into the goddamn Capitol.
They were trespassing.
I'm going to call time out.
What they were doing.
I'm going to call time out.
Okay.
Back to our line. But one thing that I think we all can agree on, the due process of that, like the issue that we have on the forefront, was not followed.
Let me just say.
Explain.
Go
ahead.
Due process, generally, people are not imprisoned for a long time waiting for trial. Speedy trial and the rendition of it is one of the guarantees of the Bill of Rights. That has not been followed in this particular case. That is the same kind of thing where what Don was talking about earlier, when Freedom of Information Act is being thwarted, and that is law. That is book law that we're supposed to be able to follow on that. And you have non-elected members of the government that say, we're not going to follow the Freedom of Information Act. That is in violation of the Constitution. So there is some common ground, regardless of where you stand on that. You don't have to like what people say, but we all agree that they have the right to say it. I like the stupidity to fall flat on its own face. I don't like when the government says you will not say this or you're not allowed to listen to this.
Oh, I agree.
Can I want to bring this back to one thing that I think goes right to the ufology field. If they do this, think what they can do to the whistleblowers that are coming out in the ufology field. Because Tim Burchett has said people have been threatened, their lives, their careers. been said they've been put in jail. So this is a scary thing. I mean, you could spread this out to January 6th or whatever, but I'm just thinking about, holy cow, if they can just take away our rights, for people who want to blow the whistle on something that we think is so important to this world, is that we're not alone. And they have the audacity to take people and say, if you talk about this because you're in the know, you're either going to end up dead, in prison, in Gitmo, and nobody's going to see you again. And this is not coming from me. This is coming from a congressman, Tim Burchett, who says, I've got people who got scared. He has said, I had whistleblowers ready to come forward, and the Pentagon, the military, and other people said, if you do this, you're all done.
All right. Let's see. Do we have Steve? Oh, good. Stephen is here. Let's bring him in. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Glad to be with you.
Great to have you here. So, I was talking to someone today that's been paying attention to this like you do, and they said now it's all kind of a mystery, like it may be bundled together, the two amendments and all that. Can you kind of give a nutshell of what you think's going on?
Yes, I'm happy to. The Schumer-Rounds amendment to the NDAA was the final piece of the puzzle, final piece of the legislation that was needed in preparation for disclosure. The first three were important acts, but this was massive. This was huge. And it was announced in a very profound way 39 days after David Grush came forward and said we have ET craft, which was never really disputed, and he's doing just fine, thank you very much, and put that out there, heavily covered by the media. 39 days later, Schumer did something very deliberate. He came forward and said that I'm going to put some language myself into that bill, into the act. And that language is going to be about eminent domain, which is interesting, right? Why did he do this? He had been outside of this. He had not gotten into this issue while the House Senate Intelligence Committee moved forward with legislation year after year. He's just staying back, and all of a sudden he steps in. This was because of Grush. When Grush hung that up and put it out there, that was essentially unofficial disclosure. He confirmed we have vehicles and bodies, which means that Roswell was exactly what the researchers said it was, which means that the government has always known about this going all the way back to the 40s, which of course quite a few people know that, which confirms that what's going on now these last 6 years is not about finding out what this phenomenon is. They already know. It's about preparing the infrastructure and the processes so that disclosure, when it comes, and it could be soon, will be responsible and appropriate. It's a massive thing that they'll be dealing with the moment this ET presence is confirmed, whether it's by our president or some other head of state. And that's been coming together quite nicely, moving forward, a little slow, but we're going through some tough times. But then Grush comes forward. Wasn't expected. I think they knew about him. I don't think they thought he would go whistleblower, but he did. And so now that's out there. What do you do, right? What do? You just try to ignore it? The press would ask about it. It's been covered in hundreds of articles. And so Schumer made a very important decision. One of the most important, I think, a member of the Senate has ever made. He said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to announce that I'm putting legislation into the bill regarding eminent domain, regarding non-human technology, specifically saying that, and bodies. All right. Primarily, he's talking about tech. I don't seem to recall him mentioning records per se, but tech is what he was interested in. Now, first of all, that accomplishes three things. One, it confirms Grush. So get off of Grush's back. Leave him alone. Secondly, he's basically sending a message to the Intel Committee and to the country. A member of the Gang of Eight and the Senate Majority Leader, am quite comfortable with what they're doing and the acts they're passing. I'm down with it. And the third message he sent was, of course, to the defense contractors and others, but certainly the defense contractors, that this technology that you have and have been working on, that we've paid you very well to deal with, It is ours, and that we have eminent domain. Now, what that means is they have the right to take it. Doesn't mean they will rush out and take it. It just means they have that right. Everybody understands, I think, eminent domain with respect to properties. Now, he also stated the law would say that they have, I think, something like 300 days to first provide a report. We need to know what you have. So obviously, they're not going to be grabbing anything for 300 days, right? Or up to 300 days. And so he puts this out there. Now, that has an interesting possibility connected to it. And that's this. I think they understood that if disclosure were to suddenly take place by whatever head of state, there's a lot of contractors out there that would probably start shoving patents through the patent office door as fast as they can get them, right? To establish as much proprietary position they can on whatever the hell they've got or think they have or going to have in order to serve the shareholders' value. In other words, that's what corporations do. They really don't serve the country. They serve the shareholders. If serving the country also serves the shareholders, they'll do it. And if it doesn't, they won't. And so that could be pretty awkward. And so he sent a message out there that, well, you may not want to do that because we have eminent domain. And even if that section were not to pass, the message has been sent. And so he accomplished three things there. But he also accomplished something else. I think that there's a lot of people. There's still many people, particularly in the darker worlds, the secret worlds, the defense contractors and so forth, that really basically didn't think this was going to happen. They knew that things were making progress, but the truth embargo has been around for 76 years, and it's just going to stay around forever. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And when he made that statement in connection to that bill, which went up shortly thereafter, and that bill is amazing, they realized, oh my God, they're serious. It's happening, right? Disclosure is coming. The truth embargo was going to end. Oh my God, what are we going to do? And things got serious real fast. And I believe between the time that he made that statement on July the 14th and that bill went up, a lot of things have been going on behind the scenes to, how would you say, respond to that legislation, right? And I can't say everything that happened, but I have a hunch that a lot of it involved phone calls from defense contractors, right, their top management, to the members of Congress that they have been providing tens of millions of dollars of donations to for their campaigns for years, tens of millions. And as it happens, they tend to favor the Republicans. They get the larger share of these donations, though Democrats also get them. And of course, key people, such as the chairman of an intel committee in the House or the chairman of an armed services committee, they get special consideration. And so I think leverage was being applied that way to these defense contractors. Meanwhile, there are people in the secret programs, in the classified world, that are become alarmed, and they're going, whoa, right? And what are we going to do? And so the pushback begins. It went on through August and September and October, quietly. Certainly they didn't want to do anything public, and made their move when? Of course they made their move as soon as that bill was about to go to reconciliation. And it's taken a while to get caught up with what the hell is going on here, right? Because it kind of caught me by surprise a little bit. But I think now we have a relatively clear picture. And that picture came into focus this morning with that press conference put on by House Republicans led by Tim Burchett.
Stephen, I've got one thing I'd like to mention, sure. Though. A lot of people, I think, have the mistaken impression that David Grush was speaking from personal experience. Everything that he testified about came from second and third-hand witnesses. He even said that. He himself had no first-hand knowledge of those things that he talked about, but he trusted the people that relayed the information to him. But Grush himself has, to my knowledge, never laid a hand on a piece of suspected off-world technology or viewed an off-world body.
That's true. Okay. And so based on what I heard this morning, which was very disturbing to me, here is how they're playing it out. Obviously, certain members, we learned that certain members of the House and Senate are leading the charge. Now, we're not surprised that Turner and Rogers were definitely going to push back. Okay. We're a little shocked when Mitch McConnell got involved. And so he was pushing back in the Senate. And I don't know. And again, the Senate wants to pass this bill. So what leverage would McConnell have against with any of the members of Senate to try to swing their vote, right, in terms of the passage of a final bill? And the only leverage I can imagine, is that and we know he was doing this, he was communicating with Johnson, Turner, and Rogers, the three Mikes, and basically trying to impress them. Look, if I can't get what I want in the Senate, don't pass the bill. Say you won't pass it, right? And so what are you going to do? So that's the leverage. So that's the game. It's standard politics. There's nothing unusual about this. This happens to be one of the most important pieces of legislation in the history of the human race or any democracy. It's a big, big deal. All right. So what we learned today is this. The game plan is this. One, these people talked for, 30 minutes. Absolutely no support was shown for the Schumer Amendment. And in fact, they did pick at it. Gates kind of poked at it when he stated that the amendment means we have to wait 25 years. That's completely wrong. He had it completely wrong, but I'm not surprised at that. And so that was it. So clearly, they're not supporting that amendment. And then they go to great lengths to make it clear that Rogers, right, is the one that greenlit a new amendment by Burchett. Now, this amendment is about, 4 paragraphs or something. It's not very long. And I have seen it, and I don't know how to describe it. It's when you consider the context, when you consider all that has happened, when you consider the legislation that has been passed, the massive media coverage of it, the people that have come forward, all the work that's been done, all the briefing of Congress and so forth. This amendment is an insult to the intelligence of any thinking person. It is a complete joke. And it's clear that the intention is Rogers allows that amendment into the House version because they intend to gut and pull out the Schumer amendment, and that's what will take its place. And if you put these two things side by side, it's like putting Einstein next to a 2-year-old. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And so apparently that's their game plan. All right. So
what do you mean by that exactly, Stephen? Does that have to do with the eminent domain is not going to be in this Burchett thing? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not in that Burchett. There's nothing in this. It's ridiculous. It's just, in so many days we need to have open files with respect to some public reports. And I mean, it's just an utterly joke. It's a joke. It's so pathetic. I don't even want to talk about it. And it's going to replace the entire Schumer amendment. That is what they intend to do. In other words, if you're going to take the Schumer amendment out, which is what they want to do, you got to have something, right? The American people have a lot of high expectations here. And that's another thing. I don't think these fine people that gave this press conference this morning have a clue of the extent of the social media engagement of this issue. They're thinking,
positive or negative, Steve?
What now?
Positive or negative, the social media engagement on this?
Positive. The support for this bill and the awareness in social media of what's going on.
So Steve, long time no see. It's great to see you again, by the way. I spoke to you. You were on my show when I still had a show.
Okay.
You moved down to D.C. It was one of my last shows. It's good to see you again.
Commander, forgive me, but those glasses prevent me from possibly recognizing who are you?
I
Exactly.
always have glasses on.
We don't know who he is.
No, we don't. Okay.
I'll have a more suitable eyewear after the break since it's causing so much discontent.
As far as I'm
Unlike the
concerned,
Schumer
you're
amendment,
Batman.
apparently.
What now?
My glasses are the Schumer glasses. That's what
I
we're going to
got you.
call them. Now, I want one thing out of you because you tend to be a pretty straight arrow with the opinion. Why the hell didn't Schumer open up his pie hole and start talking from the summer on what he was trying to do with this? Why hasn't he held a press conference? Why in his press conference every Sunday that he has in his office before he heads back down to D.C., has he not been talking about this in clear, simple terms?
I think to understand this, you got to get deep into the woods with respect to congressional protocols, and God knows they've got a lot of them. All right. Schumer tried to stay out of it. Has been staying out of this process all along. So is the president. You may have noticed. They don't want anything. They have stayed away. Why? Because they don't know what's going on. Of course they do. They don't want to partizanize it. I mean, one of the great things about this whole process, it goes all the way back, well, 6 years, but certainly 3 years to the Rubio's language in the first bill, is that it has been a nonpartisan thing. Whenever it's being talked about, whether it's Tucker Carlson or some of the most conservative people in Congress, they talk very intelligently and straightforward about the bill and what it means and so forth, and about the issue, because it is a nonpartisan. It's just not possible to really find a partisan angle on it, and it allows them to speak intelligently, and people really like that. I mean, they love it. They think it's great. Thank you. There's a very few things that any member of Congress can talk about without having the political angle on it, right? And the moment they open their mouth, the opposition is going to jump all over. Not this, okay? And that is one of the reasons why Schumer stayed out of it. He did not say anything. This was just coming from the Senate intel. They were generating the language. First it was Rubio, then it was Gillibrand, then it was Warner. You got Rounds, you've got Reid. And everybody knows the Senate Intel is the most partisan committee in Congress. And so far, so good. But then Grush comes out. And I'm not blaming Grush. I think he's an American hero. I think that he changed history. But the point is that Grush comes out and puts him in a very difficult position. What do we do? Can we just ignore him? Pretend he doesn't exist? Because it's all over the internet, right? It's been covered in every newspaper in the world. And so he steps in with that domain issue to get it out there. And then he steps back. The reason he doesn't keep coming back and pushing it, because he's the Senate Majority Leader. He is a major Democratic leader, as opposed to the Senate Intel Committee, which is a group of very, both sides, nonpartisan. And so he's not going to push it. He's put it out. It's in the bill, and on we go. Now, did he foresee the pushback that was going to come? I think probably he knew it could happen, because he knew that he just smacked every defense contractor in the nose and said, guys, that tech is ours. Now, that doesn't mean you won't be able to access it later and not make some money, but we're going to decide that, not you. We're going to decide it in the interest of the American people. So the question is, did he underestimate it? I don't know. But that is why he wasn't out, shilling the bill, right? It was up on the website for consideration, and the idea was it's going to reconcile and you pass the bill. And that's pretty much happened to the previous bill. When it comes to the NDAA, you don't have a bunch of people running around getting too overwrought about it. It's a pretty important bill. Sometimes they do. This issue, they didn't until, again, as we got to reconciliation, and boom, we discovered, oh, yeah, there's a very serious partisan effort to change this bill and go in a certain direction in service to third parties.
Stephen, in your heart of hearts, do you still believe that disclosure will happen?
Yes, disclosure is inevitable. Everything that's happened in the last 3 years has taken way, way closer. There's so much that's happened behind the scenes that most people don't even know about. But in the public domain, extraordinary things have taken place. We had the first hearing since 1968. Wasn't supposed to happen, but it happened. Went very well, right? And of course, we've had 3 extraordinary tranches of legislation. The public awareness on the issue is sky high. The coverage by the media is unprecedented. This year, I've already logged in 1,700 articles from mainstream media, twice as many as last year. And so, yeah, we're moving towards disclosure.
Well, recently I wrote a paper on the disclosure process, and I came to the conclusion with a lot of data that this will never be allowed to happen for several reasons. Number one, going all the way back to 1947, something was discovered that, quite frankly, shocked the establishment to its core. And you can see the results of that almost immediately on how the military and intelligence services treated this subject. And at some point, this core secret was surrounded by a special access program, which means if you're not on the bigot list, if you don't have a need to know, you won't. Now, we saw what happened with that with Eric Davis and Thomas Wilson. All right. Wilson, who was the director of DIA, okay, was shut out. All right, which enraged him until he had some cooler heads pull him aside in the Pentagon and tell him what he was facing if he proceeded with his anger at this process being shut out. I can't imagine in my heart of hearts this secret ever being revealed unless under the most severe draconian circumstances were to happen. Hey, look, the ETs, if they're here, and they are, they could end this thing now. But for whatever reason, they aren't and they won't.
Okay, we got to go to break. Steve, would you like to hang out with us a little bit longer?
I'll hang out as long as you want.
Excellent. Okay, we'll be right back right after these messages. We are back. We're all back, and we also have Stephen still joining us. And thank you for doing that, Stephen. It's interesting insight that you have. I know you've been paying very close to this. And, you know, it occurred to me while we were on the break, Stephen, if you could just give a nutshell, there's so many new people looking into this topic right now. But just a nutshell of what you've been doing in the last, I don't know, you were my very first guest on my show. You've been out there as a lobbyist on this topic forever, but just, you know, like a 5-minute scenario, who you are, 5 minutes or less.
So look, I'm a political activist and a disclosure advocate. I happen to be a lobbyist, but I don't do a lot of lobbying because generally nobody in the Hill wants to talk to me. However, while for most of the last 25 years, I was the only registered lobbyist, I think now there's like 6 or 7, including one fairly large lobbying firm that's representing MUFON, to give you an idea where things are going. I lobby the media, a tremendous amount of media engagement. I've generated huge numbers of stories. There's over 600 stories or articles in which I'm mentioned or my PRG is mentioned, whatever. I give conferences and I give lectures, and I've done more interviews than probably anybody in the field. God knows, on the up, heading towards 2,000. And of course, podcasts have been a big contributor to that. Love the podcast revolution. But in the last couple of months, one, I helped found an organization in Hollywood in LA called the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. It's coming along very nicely. It could get quite substantial. It's a 501c3, and it's all about networking the film industry and all the pro talent in there with all of the UAP people, right? You know who they are, and making it easier for them to connect in order to create content. All right. And it's coming along very nicely. We have about 80 founding members, and soon we'll have probably a couple of hundred. So I did that. And I've got a program. There's a series that was done that may hit Amazon. It's a modest little thing. It's not huge, but it should be an Amazon original. I'm in that, fine. And then, of course, and so I'm now living on both coasts. I have a place on LA and a place here. Obviously, with this thing going on, I'm really getting focused about the Washington situation. And in that regard, I'm working closely with Danny Sheehan. Danny Sheehan is Danny Sheehan, right? I mean, he's a legend. He finally got the New Paradigm Institute funded. It's got some funds. It's opened up its Washington office, 1 block from the White House. It'll have an LA office soon, and it's eventually going to raise 5, 10, 15 million bucks. This is a pure post-disclosure think tank. The New Paradigm Institute is created for one thing, to deal with the post-disclosure world. Recently, another think tank was founded by Gary Nolan to deal with the post-disclosure world, but the focus there is more in the science and the technology. I think other think tanks are in the works. I imagine that all the major ones in Washington, such as the Enterprise Institute, the Cato Institute, Center for American Progress, the Heritage Foundation, are all having meetings about how are they going to structure themselves, what are they going to do so they can deal with the post-disclosure world, because this is going to be think tank heaven when that happens. And then of late, I just sent out a blast. Social media and a list blast regarding what's happening now. I'm encouraging people to put the maximum pressure on the Republican House members in the conference committee to see if they can be persuaded to give up on this ridiculous tack that they're taking. And so that's very hardcore activism. I don't do that very often, but that's what I'm doing. And I'm paying attention. And of course, I'm monitoring the media all the time. And that's in a nutshell. That's it.
Very good. Thank you.
Did you have any rebuttal to what I had to say?
Which part that you had to say? I mean, you had a couple of things here, Don. Which part?
Well, basically, that this disclosure process will never be allowed to happen by the powers that be.
Yeah.
Especially in light of the fact that it's apparently guarded by a special access program, and that whatever is the secret behind this, it basically terrifies them to the nth degree.
I can only say this, Don. It's no longer a secret. Over the last 3 years, there have been numerous classified reports given to Congress, and they've had plenty of briefings, individual meetings with people that were classified. And these classified meetings and briefings basically told them there's an ET presence, that the Hill is crawling with people now that know there's an ET presence.
Well, that's never been in dispute.
Well, I mean, there was a time when people would say no, that can't be the case, but it's in that. So what you have is a whole lot of individuals on the Hill that are aware there's an ET presence. Meanwhile, legislation is being passed to address that, and it's getting passed 3 years consecutively, setting up offices, setting up processes, protecting witnesses. This is not the kind of things you expect to happen if under no circumstances is it going to be allowed that a confirmation of the ET presence can never take place. Now, there's more than one secret here. The core secret is, are we alone or not? Well, that's pretty much out there. Fine. But there's other secrets. For instance, where is the technology hidden, right? Where are these programs operating? That's a big secret. What do we know about the extraterrestrials? Still secret. Have we had any contact directly with extraterrestrials at the government level? Still a secret. So there's plenty of secrets that I file under the heading of awkward public relations problems. And so another way of rephrasing what you're saying is this. The government of the United States faces a mountain of public relations problems if it were to disclose. And I agree. But I think the decision was this. If we do the right thing, if we do what Truman might have done in 48 or Eisenhower could have done in 53, if we go ahead and we set up an entity, we pass a lot of legislation to deal with the issue and how it could be brought forward in a responsible way, get NASA involved, if we do all the right things, acting as if we don't know there's an ET presence, but we're maybe to find out, which is, again, not true, but yet necessary. If we do all that, when disclosure comes and the hard questions start, that the American people will be more generous about it. They'll go, look, you've done the right thing. We understand you lied for all those years, but let's go forward together. Imagine what would happen, though, if we hadn't done any of this and Xi Jinping had announced it and come forward with tons of evidence and said there's an extraterrestrial presence here, and our president is sitting there in the White House, right? And we're basically shit out of luck. It would have been a catastrophe. Right. So we're not the only nation that can confirm this truth to the world. And
I've been watching this very, very, very carefully.
Yes.
And the one military organization that has not yet even cracked a smile has been the United States Air Force, which are the very people that have been in charge of this purportedly since 1947. Now, the Navy has come forward They've encouraged their pilots, if you have a sighting, feel free to talk about it, and all of this other malarkey.
Yeah.
But the Air Force are the ones that were even asked for information, and they've stonewalled
Yeah.
the process.
I've talked about that. The best answer I can give for that is that the Air Force, I think, in some ways has the biggest problem, public relations wise, than the other services. Meaning, if disclosure happens, they got some really tough questions to ask, and they've done things and so forth. And I think maybe they decided, look, we got a lot to answer for, and it's going to be tough, right? So it's probably best if we just kind of stay quiet, stay in the background, and don't get out there and put on a show, because eventually people are going to say, oh, please give us a break. So that's the best answer I can give. Now, it's also the case that the Army is not in there, but the Army doesn't really have much engagement in this issue. I get that. The Air Force is obviously not the case. That is the best answer I can get. And I keep coming back to this. Public relations is critical to all of this. Everybody's been in position like this in their life. They do something really, really bad, and now they've got to admit it. Okay, they got to tell somebody, their wife, their boss, or whatever. And naturally, they want to do everything they can so that when they finally admit it, it will be received generously, right? They're not going to go out of their way to make it worse. The government has a whole raft of public relations dilemmas and brutal questions they're going to have to answer. And so a lot of what's going on is to try to mitigate it. Will it mitigate it completely? No, it will not. But the Gen Zs don't care. The millennials pretty much don't care. It's the baby boomers and the Gen Xs that have a memory, and they know this, and they're the ones that are going to raise some issues and so forth. But what can I say? This thing is so out in the open that they simply can't, pretending or acting like there's nothing there is going to do more damage to the government than anything they're going to reveal at this point. That is the consensus, I think, that is developed. And it is because the consensus got to a critical point that 10 people made the decision that they would come forward privately together in an effort to advance this issue. But those 10 people, and we know who they are, in 2017, it wasn't 10 rogues. I think those people represented a whole lot of people working in the Pentagon and the CIA, DIA, and elsewhere, who really think it's time to end this damn thing. And these people came forward. And then they have worked, several of them have devoted their lives for the whole last 6 years to moving this thing forward and have been instrumental in bringing it where it is. They will be properly recognized. They've taken a lot of arrows and a lot of spears. They've been attacked and everything else. But that's the nature of activism. That's the nature of history. But that's what's happened. And again, disclosure is inevitable. Just like every dam, no matter how powerful it is, will one day fail. And when it fails, it fails. And so I understand you're feeling down, but I'm gonna put my money down on disclosure. The only question is how soon.
That's a very interesting metaphor you used there, Steve. You used the metaphor of a dam. And how are dams able to work? They're maintained. You keep pouring concrete. You keep letting some water off to keep the pressure. You manage the pressure.
Right.
You give water downstream so that people can do some things, maybe survive, maybe grow some food. But it's the government that put the dam up. It's the government that maintains the dam. And then the government taxes you so they can continue to control that dam.
Yeah.
Until either a force of nature causes it to get out of control, or it comes down. And when it comes down, it's spectacular.
And that's a good point, because the fact is, if you as you back these last 20, 25 years, 30 years, the amount of maintenance they've been putting and devoting to the truth embargo has just fallen off, right? I mean, they just stopped doing all that much. I think it peaked around 97 with that press conference at the Defense Department where Haynes came out there and talked about not only the mogul balloon, but crash test dummies, whatever that. And then it just started fading off. It was almost as if, I think they had built up X amount of momentum, and they're going, look, we can't, in the face of the internet and social media, and everybody's got a camera and all this stuff, trying to keep the truth embargo going with the old traditional ways, it's just not going to work. And I think they just said, look, we're just going to stop maintaining the dam and see how long it lasts. And I think that fell off around mid-90s, and it's taken another almost 30 years, 27 years, and the dam is collapsing. That's the way I see it.
Steve, I have a question for you, and it's a two-part. One, I'd like to ask you, the intelligence communities are playing a heavy role into trying to stop the disclosure. Tim Burchett has come out and said that the intelligence communities, not the committees, but the communities, are thwarting this. We know that Chuck Schumer is very scared of the intelligence agencies. He's actually said that. He said once before, you don't want to mess with them because they'll screw you 3 ways to Sunday if they ever do. So you now have these intelligence communities who become very, very powerful. They do not want this out. They're getting tons of money from this, and they're hiding this money because the Pentagon just did an audit where 50% of their budget can't be accounted for. Yeah. So in some ways, I'm saying, Don, there's going to be a big fight about disclosure, and these people are not going to let it go without a knockdown drag out. What's your feeling about the intelligence communities with this, Steve?
I think there's some misunderstandings here.
Okay.
Let me see if I can clarify. Okay. For one thing, what happened with Burchett and Gates and Anna Paulina Luna, again, best name of anybody in the Congress, easy, nobody comes close, is that they got all fired up because of Grush coming out, and they decided, okay, the Senate's getting all the glory, they're getting all the press and everything else. We're important too, and we're going to get into this, and boom, off they go. And Burchett had already come out ahead of time. Now, Burchett came out on his own. He learned somehow about this. I don't think he was given a direct briefing, and he said, hey, House is important. There's ETs here, and he goes public, and he's saying there's ETs here, and we got technology going on News Nation, going on Fox. No problem. I mean, that took guts, but hey, he's out there telling the truth. And what he discovered is he got unbelievably good press. The guy went from being a backbencher to being almost a national figure, getting invited into programs to talk about other issues. He's made himself famous in a short amount of time by simply telling the truth about the damn phenomena. So that's good. Okay, so in any event, when Grush happens, they decide we're going to make our move here because they knew Grush absolutely would testify before that subcommittee. I assure you, the plan was not for the first hearing since 1968 to be for a subcommittee of the oversight in the House. No. But if you can call a hearing, and if the witness will come, you got a hearing. Well, Grush was going to come. He wanted to testify as soon as possible. He'd have testified to the Agricultural Committee. And once they got Grush, I think it was difficult to get Fravor and Graves. And so they had a nice little hearing, and Grush goes in front of the committee and under oath repeats everything he had said to Ross Coulthard under oath. And then he goes even further. I love this one. There's this one moment in the hearing. I think it was Luna it was Luna or Meach that was asking the question. But again, this is how crazy this is. She says, okay, well, Mr. Grush, you have stated that we have extraterrestrial technology. Okay. Do you happen to know where it's located? And he says, oh, yes, I do. I know where it's all located. And she says, well, can you tell us? And he's, well, no, I can't say that in public session. Now, you see, what he's supposed to say to the question is, can you say where it's located? That's not something that I can get into. But no, he says, yes, I know. Now, I'm sure some guys over at the Pentagon swallowed hard when he did that. So he, I know. Yeah. So what happens? So what happens next, of course, is that they want to get in a skiff. They want to get in a skiff because if they can get in a skiff, they can act. He can then tell them the locations of this, and this committee is rocking. Well, I assure you, the Department of Defense, right, did not want David Grush to get in a skiff with Matt Gaetz, Tim Burchett, or pretty much anybody on that committee, and so they denied it. right? And so they couldn't get, in which they upset them, but they denied the SCIF, and that was going on there. So that wasn't the intelligence community pushing back. That was the DOD going, look, this is not the way this is supposed to be happening. We've got to get this under control. And so they kind of shut them out. Now, eventually they did get a SCIF, and I'm not sure what went on there, but but it was later, and I'm sure it was more controlled. In terms of the intelligence community in general, look, the intelligence community is very powerful. This thing has been going on for 6 solid years. The last 3 years have been intense. And frankly, I just don't see the pushback. I don't see it, right? There's all kinds of things they could do. They're not doing it. If they were doing it behind the scenes, we'd know. Because if they were going to any members of Congress and calling up and saying, excuse me, I'm with such and such division of the CIA, and we know where you live and we know where your kids go to school or whatever the hell like that, it would have gotten out fast. I think the intelligence community is actually supportive of this. Jim Semivan was one of the original 10. He was a career guy at the CIA. He came forward and then eventually told us he was a contactee. The CIA didn't even say a thing. So I don't think it's not in the intelligence community that is pushing back here. What it is the intelligence committee, right? Not the community, but the intelligence committee, meaning politics, meaning Mike Hunter. Because what? Because they get huge amounts of money from these defense contractors, and this bill apparently is clearly going to cause problems for those defense contractors. And so they are the ones that are driving this. And those that oppose disclosure in general, for other reasons, are seeing an opportunity to pile on. Okay, fine, let's get in there and whatever. And exactly who, what, and where, we don't know. But in terms of what we learned at that press conference today, it is clear. This is a House Republican move, right, in service to somebody. And it's so transparently obvious. The idea that they would put forward this ludicrous amendment and say, oh, this is really what will work, clearly making it quite clear that that's going to supplant the other one. I don't know how this is going to go. But all I can say is I'm doing everything I can over the next 5 days to rain hell down upon them. All right. I've asked a lot of people to bury them in Twitter tags, phone calls, and emails. Just bury them and pound them and say, look, we're not putting up with that. So we'll see. We'll see. So again, if you look at the last 6 years, going back to 2017, NASA it creates its first UFO investigation team. Now, NASA knows there's ETs here, but still, they can't touch it with a 10-foot pole. But all of a sudden, an astronaut and a former Intel member and Senator Nelson is actually put in charge of NASA. And the next thing we know, they've started a UFO study group. Okay. And there's been a lot of that. And so it's you see where it's going. Right? It's not like they're just letting all this happen to keep us happy, but then at the end they'll just put up a wall. No way. And I'll tell you, I think another reason why in the late 90s they stopped maintaining the truth embargo was what happened starting in the mid 90s going forward. Internet, then Mosaic, and then Netscape. And then Facebook in 2003, and then Twitter in 2006. And before you know it, you've got billions of people in multiple social medias swapping UAP stories like crazy. Plus, it's a huge activist tool that's being used. And then the podcast revolution comes where everybody can now be interviewed. If you're a truth embargo guy and you're thinking, okay, we're gonna, truth embargo today, truth embargo tomorrow, truth embargo forever. In the face of this social media and this kind of citizen communication capability, it's crazy. This isn't 1947 or 69. It's not even 1995. This is another world. And this truth embargo is a dead policy walking. Now, what the super secret is, I don't know. But I do know this. If the colonels and the generals and the CIA officers and directors can handle that truth, by God, so can we. It's that simple, right? It's that simple. We can handle it.
I agree.
My second
Steve,
question. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just a quick question, Steve.
Mhm.
Steve, I just wanted to ask you one thing that's been floating out there, and this is I don't know if this is true or not. I have no idea. But have you heard anything in Congress or anything that we have been in contact with the ETs?
One of the most important questions. It will come up day one. I assure you, there's about 6 or 7 really brutal questions that are going to come up on day one, meaning the president confirms on Monday. Tuesday, the White House briefing room fills up to the gunwales with reporters. And guess what? I've got 15,000 articles on my news media archive now, 1,700 this year alone. And so tons of reporters have been covering this. They know what's going on. They know the questions to ask. It's not catching them by surprise. And so those are going to be brutal questions on day one, including, I'm talking day one, including the presidential spokesperson being asked, are ETs taking people out of their bedrooms in the middle of the night? And the answer had better be yes. And the next question will be, well, what can we do about it? And the answer to that is there's nothing we can do about it. Now, is that a public relations problem or not? It is. And then there'll be a question, have ETs been in formal contact with our government or any government? I don't know the answer to that yet. I could go no, I could go yes. If the answer is yes, that's going to be pretty interesting. And the people are going to want to know a lot about that. And that's a tough one, but it's not as tough as the next question that follows that. Again, I say public relations problems. I'm damn serious. Here's the follow-up question to that one. Excuse me. Did we, by any chance, have contact with extraterrestrials and come to some sort of an agreement where we would simply not interfere in any way with their genetic work and hybridization work and contact and so forth, in return some nice technology? The answer to that is yes. Things are going to get real interesting real fast. And the answer is going to be truthful, because one of the problems, not the problem, one of the things they better understand is that when disclosure takes place, several billion eyes are going to be focused right on them. It's not easy to get several billion sets of eyeballs focused in one direction. It almost happened at the last World Cup final last year. There's 1.5 billion people watching that live, okay? This will be worse. And so when you've got that many eyeballs looking at you, and you're going to walk out in front of a camera and lie straight in their faces, meaning, well, no, because, hey, we've got to get away with them so well. You lie in that situation. I don't care what the question is. And the internet is going to dissect that lie, and it's going to vivisect you. It's going to come back, and it's going to destroy your world, because it's going to be a very different place post-disclosure. The kind of ways we get away with lies is not going to work anymore, particularly when it comes to this issue. And so if the answer to that question is yes, we cut a deal. Well, lawyers will be hired. Restitutions will be considered. People will be pretty angry. That's a tough one. That's why I hope the answer is no. And I happen to think the answer is no. But not for sure. But this is just an example of the kinds of problems they're facing and why they're having to go through all of this preparation to set the president up to disclose, which the hearing in the front of the Intel Committee is critical. And then when the questions begin, people are going to be a little more generous about it and go, well, let's go forward together. Let's just don't go backward and sue each other for the next 20 years. But there's still going to be problems, I assure you. There's going to be a lot of anger. It's going to be a lot of upset. But hey, what can I say? It's a big deal.
Steve, I have a question for you. Just your opinion, because I know you've thought about this type of thing quite a bit. That is, let's say I'm some branch off of Lockheed Martin, and I was given by the government to back engineer a crashed craft. Mm-hmm. Now I'm all of a sudden I'm worried about this eminent domain thing where I'd have to give up. I'm right on the brink of this amazing technology that's going to change the world, or maybe we can blow up the world if we want, whatever they're trying to do with it. Mm-hmm. I always think they always look for ways to kill. But let's just say they're right near a breakthrough. How strong are they going to fight that? And in what ways can they bury it? Can they try to hide this type of technology if they have it through an oversight like this?
If you read the current amendment, Schumer amendment, they actually have specific language in there about hiding, destroying, anything, right? Saying you don't do that, period. So they've covered that. And look, all I can say is this. We have many defense contractors working on massive defense programs, such as our nuclear submarines. What would you think if Lockheed Martin were to come out, or some contractor come out and say, look, I want that submarine named after the president of our company because, we helped build it. And by the way, right, we developed some cool things about that torpedo system. We're going to be selling that pretty soon to the Chinese or whatever the hell. People would say, are you out of your friggin' mind? What's the difference between them working on our fighter planes and working on technology from another world that we gave to them and paid them to work on, right? And it's not just any technology. It's not like, oh, well, this is going to make it a little easier to do this over here. We're talking about world-changing technology. If I'm right, the kind of technology, once it's instituted, could make trillions of dollars. Should those trillions of dollars go to the shareholders of Lockheed Martin, or should they go to the American people? I believe it should be the American people. Doesn't mean that we can't work out some deals with them after we've made decisions about this stuff so that they could be helpful in generating stuff. And they can make
Steve, how do you do that? How do you put trillions of dollars to the American people? What's your form of government? What's your form of transfer of this? I mean, it sounds utopic. It sounds wonderful, in fact. In fact, I can't figure out how the Democrats, when they controlled everything, because you seem to see them as the heroes in all this, gave you the disclosure.
Look, let's not get into that. I'm not calling the Democrats heroes.
Whoa. I've been sitting here very patiently, and I like you a lot, Steve.
Yeah.
But you've been beaten pretty hard on one side of it, and you're talking to a Green Party independent. I hate both political major parties in this country more than you could ever measure.
It is one thing to throw shade at the Republicans for something they're doing. It's another thing.
All of the shade that I am not throwing, I'm throwing a light, and I want a simple answer. Why the frig did they not move this disclosure when they controlled all three parts of our government?
Oh, you could ask the same thing but why didn't the Republicans do it?
You've already explained why the Republicans did it. They are in cahoots with the defense contractors. You've already made that case, sir.
I am talking about.
Please.
Look, you going to let me talk or not?
I am.
I'm talking about the Republicans right now under these circumstances. I'm not talking about the Reagan administration. I'm not talking about the Bush administration. I'm talking about these Republicans right now. And I have a problem with them. I haven't been singing the praises of the Democrats.
Yes, you have.
How? Give me an example.
You have been telling me that Senator Schumer is the guiding light on this. And this is a man who has the ability to, in his position right now, to speak plainly, clearly, and eloquently to this issue and defend his position and completely upend the Republican uprising that you see here. And I don't necessarily disagree with you.
Look, what I said was
to understand how you see this.
I said that Senator Schumer is the one that came forward with the language for the bill because he's the one that came forward with the language for the bill. If it had been Senator Rubio, I'd have been talking about him. Again, all this hyper-partisanship's got us all very sensitive, and they're jumping on this and jumping on that. Look, I have been about as nonpartisan as a person could be for years and years. I'm noted for it. The only reason that I'm going where I am right now is because what is happening in the reconciliation room and the press conference I saw and what I have learned is what it is. And because this bill is at stake, I'm going to have to go there. And I've admitted it in the post I put. I said, look, this issue has been nonpartisan for years, but I'm afraid that has changed. Hopefully it will return back to that zone. But what's happening is what is happening, and I'm dealing with the reality of it, all right? And there's a bill at stake, and I'm not going to sit by and let it be cut to pieces by people for the reasons that I've put forward. It's not that Democrats don't get funding from defense contractors. That's not the point. It's that the ones that are getting the funding from defense contractors are trying to take one of the most important pieces of legislation out of a bill because of money.
Right. I understand that. I don't understand why why Senator Schumer is not using the bully pulpit that he owns to eloquently put out and elocute this to the public. Because I think he's at that precipice. This is not the first time we've upended it when this goes into reconciliation. It's a horrible process.
I think I did give an answer to that question.
All right, then I, as a number of people in the chat room have said, I'm the butthead because I'm pointing out that I don't quite understand how to roll over on one side and say that this is being upended by Congress, by the reps, the House of Representatives over the Senate on the Senate putting this bill forward. I do agree with you that this is thrown off, that this comes out, it's presented, and then all of a sudden there's opposition when that opposition should have been discussed before it was ever made public. Nobody in the Senate, puts that kind of a bill together, puts that kind of information together without putting the consensus. It throws me off why the Senate Republicans and the ones that you mentioned in particular are against it. It doesn't make, unless obviously it lines up with your statement. I don't understand why Senator Schumer is backing away from it and not bringing it to the people.
I'll answer it again. Okay. Senator Schumer is a member of the Gang of Eight. He's the majority leader of the Senate. He is the Democratic majority leader of the Democratic Senate. He is an intensely political figure. And the president is in the same boat. The president is a Democratic president, period. And so to the extent that they get into this, they are heavily politicizing it, and they don't want to do that. Right? So he stays out. He doesn't know where things are going to go. He's not that much. He can't see the future that well. The bill, the Senate version of the bill had been up there for months, and we hadn't heard anything. Now, apparently, there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. But again, Danny Sheehan's up on the hill. He's been up on the hill for the last 2 years. He did not learn about this until recently. He learned about it because apparently Mitch McConnell started making a move on the issue. And I think the one that he was focused on two things: the eminent domain, I get that, and also the presidential board, the review board, the UAP review board. Now, I don't think that's in play right now. I don't think that's a major deal, but I kind of understand why that was an issue for some, because presidential review board is going to be set up under a Democratic president, right? And so, that sticks it into the White House. It kind of politicizes it. And there was some saying, well, let's get rid of that. So anyway, McConnell is doing his thing. He starts talking to Johnson. By the way, the whole time that people are sort of trying to decide what to do about this bill, you may have noticed that in the House of Representatives, there is total and complete chaos, utter chaos, unprecedented chaos. Okay. And so it's not like, everybody knows what the hell's going on. It's not a normal Congress. It hasn't been that for years. And so, so finally it's reconciliation time and people make their moves. And now, again, Schumer, I'm telling you why Schumer stayed out of it. I'm telling you why the president has stayed out of it. And that's the best answer I can give you. Now, plenty of people are in it now, right? There is plenty of pushback coming from the other side, but it is pretty much citizens. It's activists, right? What's going on in that room is going on in that room. Now, there's no anybody in a conference, you can hold a press conference. You can hold a press conference, come out and address it. It's not against the rules per se. Burchett did that today, all right? And when you hold a press conference, you do it because you're trying to help sway the decision making going on in the reconciliation room. All right. When Mike Turner came forward and made some statements about that thing is going to get pulled, right, and made some strong statements about that, he was trying to influence that reconciliation process. Some of us interpret it as weakness, meaning if things were going well for him, he didn't need to do that. So maybe he's getting concerned. I don't know. But there are people trying to influence the reconciliation process. Now, okay, that's fine. It's a democracy. All right. Now, has anybody come forward to give a press conference in support of the Schumer amendment? Not yet. Again, You'd have to ask them. Maybe they will. They may do it first of next week. This isn't over yet, that's for sure. And so it is one of the most extraordinary reconciliation conferences ever. There have been many, and there have been some big fights over the NDAA, no question, but nothing quite like this. I mean, this is just off the charts. And so we're kind of in unknown territory. And so it's hard to apply maybe standard political math to it. But a lot of them are making it up as they go. And we're just trying to follow along. That's the best answer I can give you, Commander.
Appreciate it, Steve.
All right. Chris or Don, you got a question? One more?
Don, go ahead.
I do have just one. And we're going to have to backtrack a little bit. When Grush was testifying before Congress, but somewhere along in the process, someone mentioned to Grush about the Roswell incident. And Grush, surprising to me, I mean, my God, Roswell, it's the mother of all UFO cases, said that he had been admonished not to speak about Roswell.
Yeah.
That struck me as extremely odd and weird. Okay.
Do you know did he indicate who admonished him? Did he have any sense of that?
One of the people. Well, it was before his command authority.
Okay.
That gave him permission, to go to Congress.
I can give you my best answer for that is simple. You mentioned we got some non-human tech. Okay, got some non-human tech. That's pretty startling and whatever, and whatever non-human tech means, but that has a certain impact on people. You say Roswell, the best known event in the history of this phenomena worldwide, that has a whole lot of emotion attached to it. That's flipping a switch. And so I can understand when they say, look, just don't mention Roswell. There's just too much attached to that. It has too much implications for people. It's going to stir them up. So try to keep the language, we say neutral, right? So say non-human tech, but, and say that we have vehicles here and there, but just don't mention that one of them is the Roswell vehicle. That's what I think, Don, what was going on there.
Okay.
A lot of you don't want to over excite people or get them. There's certain words and certain things that are triggers, and Roswell's one of them. Anybody else?
Chris?
Yeah.
Your turn.
Steve, I'd like to play a short clip for you and just get your comment on this, if I could, please.
Mm-hmm.
Have government agencies used tax dollars to procure advanced non-human technology? If they have, where exactly is that technology now? Has it been used for profit? How exactly has the American public benefited from that technology? And then this question, the most pressing of all. Has the U.S. government communicated directly with the beings that piloted these craft? Have American officials ever entered into any sort of agreement with them? And if so, what are the terms of that agreement? Have government agencies used tax dollars?
I wanted to ask you, Steve, about that. Is not the part about the agreements. What I wanted to ask you about is the technology. Do you ever think we'll see that technology? Because we've got it now wrapped up in projects. We've got it wrapped up with private organizations. We're funding it. The American people are funding something that could just change the whole United States as far as that goes.
Oh, look, if you read, it's a long bill. By the way, I have a link where and I'm happy to send it and put it in the chat, where I took that bill, which is in that standard, print style of bills, brutal, and I converted it into a nice little PDF, single space, much easier to read. And it's up on the internet, and I'm happy to send a link to you all if there's a way to do that, if you got a chat thing here or something. But if you read that bill carefully, and it's a lot, all of what you just said is covered. This bill covers it all. In fact, this is the way I describe it. In its totality, if it's passed as is, what this bill does is establish the entire legal framework in which everything the government has classified now, no matter how deep is classified, no matter how underground it is, whether it's technology, machines, documents, reports, or whatever. Everything the government has will work its way out of there, come up through a chain of review, several areas, and end up eventually in the National Archives. And of course, be revealed to the public on the way there. Everything. How long will it take? Don't know. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. But that's not what's important. What's important is there's going to be things coming out right away. And so people are going to start learning what the government has, and they're going to be, wow, that's fantastic. And then the process will go on, and eventually we're going to get it all. That's what this bill is set up to do. And it goes even further. And this is what Gates got completely wrong at the press conference today. It includes an area, a segment that says that everything that's 25 years or older, meaning it's been at least 25 years since it was enacted, put into play, documents, whatever, that is fast-tracked. In other words, that can be brought into the pipeline pretty much immediately for review. And so that means that they've got a huge trove of stuff that they could get into the pipeline pretty quickly, and people are going to be thrilled to start learning about it, right? And if does that mean that if something happens today, it's pushed out 25 years? No, that's not what the bill is about. It's specifically about everything prior to 1998, and that's all it's about. Gates has got it completely wrong. And so, again, this infrastructure is designed for full disclosure. Now, the pace of it and what comes out will be a national security matter. And there are several entities that will make these decisions, including the Presidential Review Board. It's everything we could have possibly wanted. But it does end, the truth embargo ends when the president says there's an ET presence. That's what I call the disclosure, capital D. The truth embargo ends at that point. The revelation of all the information is post-disclosure. That is what do we learn post-disclosure? When do we learn it? How much? How fast? And so forth. That is all going to be in the post-disclosure world. And again, this law sets all of that up, ready to go. It is the last piece, and that is why I think this is the last stand, the last stand of the truth embargo believers and holders and whatever. And I don't think it's going to work.
Do you really think that they're going to give up free energy, Steve? Do you really think they're going to give up the technology that can cure cancer? I mean, we don't know what these ETs have the amazing ability to do. And if they have...
Okay.
Go ahead.
No.
I'm saying that we've gotten this technology supposedly locked up. Now, if we do have this is heinous that people are dying or people are living in squalor and everything else now, that we could be helping these people with this technology. It's not right.
Did I not say that the government's facing a brutal public relations problem here?
No,
right?
You're right. Oh, no, absolutely right.
And inevitably, I mean, a lot of them, I think the attitude is, look, if you'll just keep this thing going until I'm dead and disclose all you'll want. And a lot of people have already died. So this is a tough situation. And now we don't know exactly what the tech is. So until we really know, we're speculating as to what it could have done, not have done. But certainly they've got some stuff that should have been in play a long time ago. And by the way, that was recently brought out by a number of people, including Gary Nolan. They're making the point that the failure to allow this tech to be accessible by the total intellectual power of the full human race, as opposed to a couple of guys hired to work underground, is a mistake. That's not how you develop stuff. So, will they have to you bet they're going to give it up. All right? Because let me tell you something. The only thing that bothers a corporate executive more than not being able to, give out a good dividend is going to prison. And that's exactly where they'll go if they screw with this. This is
Do you really
not
believe that, Steve? Do you really believe these powerful people are going to go to prison?
Let me tell you something. One of the hallmarks of the recent years is all the powerful people that are going to prison. It's getting to be more common than it used to be. And that trend is going to continue. And so these are defense contractors. They have money. They're going to do fine. They're going to have more work in the future. The government may very well include them in development projects of this tech in order to, quote, serve the the people, and they may very well make a lot of money from that. And so the idea that they're going to say, well, no, unless we have it all, unless we can do whatever we want, we're not doing it, and then end up going to prison. No, the best example of this, and this is one of the reforms that has to happen after disclosure, and we need to reform it soon. We're talking about proper capitalism, regulated capitalism, instead of what we have now, which is insanity. This is the best example. And recently there was an interview on this with the head of the company. Nestle has been buying up water rights everywhere. They're buying up vast water rights so they can have that water and sell it to us. And when the president was asked, isn't it wrong for you to be able to buy this, control it? And his answer was, well, water doesn't belong to anybody. And I thought about that for a second, and I don't know if he realized what he said. What he was saying is, water doesn't belong to anybody, so if we can get the rights to it, we'll get the rights to it. And I tell you, there's a company out there that they could come up with a way to claim the rights to the air over some stretch of the country, and you would have to pay them if you entered that zone to breathe. They would do it. So we need to fix American capitalism. It makes 100 billionaires while people sleep on the street in Washington, D.C., right down on the street below my office, 1.5 blocks from the White House. But I'm getting political here. My activist is coming out. But I'm simply saying that the forces against that kind of stuff are building quickly. And if I'm Lockheed Martin, by the way, Steve Justice is one of the people that came forward in 2017. He was a former associate director of Lockheed Martin, kind of tells you where they're at. But if I'm these companies, I give that technology to the United States government. I thank them for all the money that we received, offer to help in any way, get back to us if we can be more of assistance, and the government will then decide, okay, this technology allows us to do this, right? What is it going to cost to develop it? And what benefit does it provide to the American people? And then they will proceed forward. And I understand that governments are not as efficient as corporations, and therefore can be slow, and that's irritating. Which is why I believe that if they do get this tech, they'll probably end up going back to these corps and working out deals where they will be involved to help develop it, just like they do with their submarines and their jets. And so everybody wins. It's just that the what comes from this technology is going to be fundamentally to benefit the American people, and then secondarily benefit the shareholders of Lockheed Martin, as opposed to just benefit. Yeah. That's the way I see it happening, but who knows? I mean, you can't see the future. It's still way too complicated.
Yeah. Commander, I think you should ask the next question.
I'm trying to understand how we're going to trust the government that had the technology, that gave it away to corporations, has gone into the lying business so far. We're so far down the rabbit hole that they're afraid to come clean. How this is all going to work out.
Well, again, you say gave the technology. They gave the technology the same way they gave them the task to build some aspect of a nuclear submarine, right? Basically, they contracted with these companies to work on technology that they had.
That's right.
Lockheed was not
a corporation, and you're the government.
Yeah.
It's on a ledger someplace. Mm-hmm. It's called GFE, or government furnished materials.
That's right.
And you generally have something worked out where that technology is watched. I understand I think it's a good example when you talk about atomic and nuclear power, how we did it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good blueprint to understand how the security and the control information has been extrapolated into UAPs and UFOs and other related things around this subject, because it was very effective. there was a core group of people that knew about the Manhattan Project and the other parts of that what went on. And they did a very good job of maintaining control of that information.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So when you look at it, yes, I agree. Steve, you brought up the age that we live in, our government, and it's not our government, I should say the people, us, have not really fully appreciated or understood what new media, the internet has provided in this change. There's a lot of parts of it that are trying to catch up with it. Yeah. But I am not convinced that the government is going to give up on this, because there's, as you said, just wait till I die seems to be the philosophy of too many people that are pulling the levers.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons over the years why they held off, and they managed to get 76 years. I mean, my God, the ETs the whole time are flying anywhere they want to. They're being seen all the time, and they've managed to squeeze 76 years out of this embargo. I say it's one of the most remarkable achievements any government's ever done. I mean, if we were a dictatorship, it wouldn't be that remarkable. But they've done it in what amounts to a democracy, a democratic republic with substantial rights and media ability and First Amendment rights for journalists. And yet they managed to do it for 76 years. So it's not
a global thing. So I'm sorry, Stephen. This is a global thing, too. You got to remember.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's not just the United States.
That's right. And that's yeah, you're right. So for the collective countries on this planet to manage to go 76 years without a single government formally confirming the extraterrestrial presence is remarkable. And so my thinking is this: it's not remarkable that it might end. It's remarkable that it hasn't ended already. Right. So they've had a great run, and then it's over. Okay. And now there's really powerful reasons why it has to be over. They were less powerful in earlier days, but not now. And one of the reasons is that we've got to have some sort of a major change in perspective, a worldview change, a paradigm shift, because we're so deep in a hole and so much deep into trouble that none of the standard solutions even remotely seem useful. We could have a nuclear war tomorrow. The risk is greater than it's ever been, and it's getting worse all the time. Somebody's going to use a nuke somewhere. And then the question is, does that expand or does it not? But one nuke used in a theater of battle is a nuclear war, and that area goes to DEFCON 1. A terrorist nuke, all this could happen at any time. The amount of deprivation on the planet, several billion people are living in serious deprivation without enough food, water, clothing, shelter. These people are not happy. They're going to become terrorists, and they're going to start immigrating. And the border issues we see today will be nothing compared to what's coming. That's going to create massive upheaval. And I could go on and on and on. We have got to have a change of perspective. We've got to we look at the world in a different way. And how is that going to happen? Somebody's going to write a very popular book. Some charismatic leader will rise up, and everybody will follow that person worldwide. No, it's going to take something like ending the truth embargo and confirming that we're not alone in the universe, and maybe even open contact. And we'll start maybe rethinking how we conduct our affairs on this planet. Absent that, meaning absent disclosure, absent that paradigm change, we're fucked. Pure and simple. Maybe the rich will be able to hold off, but eventually it'll get to them, right? It'll all get to them. There were a lot of wealthy people in the trade centers, very wealthy people in the trade centers. But finally, the chaos and the mistakes of human society caught up with them that day. It's going to be more of that. And so that's one reason. Another reason is that politically.
Steve, I have to tell you, we got kind of a hard ending here coming right up.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I made my point.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Stephen. And thank you, all my good friends. We'll be back in 1 week from tonight, and we'll see you then. Thank you.
Yeah,